Over the past several weeks, I've gotten more questions about this one than just about anything else. In Thailand, Billboard from Bank of China, RMB, new choice, your premier bank of RMB services, the world currency. This advertisement is actually very common in Asia. This is nothing that I haven't been seeing for years now, living here in mainland China. So you should take this really with a grain of salt. This is an advertisement for Bank of China, which is a mostly government-owned bank, one of the big banks in China. I believe 80% owned by the Chinese central government, with various other shareholders that are either party members or connected to the party itself. So when we see this billboard, no, it doesn't mean they're saying that the yuan is ready to be the world reserve currency. Notice how it says the world currency, not world reserve currency. And I will tell you why. It has in part to do with the fact that the renminbi is not ready to be a world reserve currency. In fact, it's not even close. As far as trading goes for currencies around the world, the renminbi has gained substantially in trading currencies or speculation on the forex market over the past several years, and will continue to climb in currency trading. But as far as trade goes, what does it mean? Well, China's yuan, fifth most used payment in the current SWIFT system. What does that mean in terms of actual percentages? Well, in the past couple of years, China's renminbi currency has doubled each year in its use for world trade through the SWIFT system. This brings the renminbi up to only about 5.6%, I believe, somewhere in that vicinity, from being over 2.5% over a year ago. So globally, that is not really a lot when you consider the amount of trade that's being done around the world. The US dollar is still by far the most used currency for international trade through the SWIFT system. So we can take, again, the billboard at a grain of salt, being that it would take China many years to even challenge the dollar as the world reserve currency. It takes a lot to knock down, a currency that is used by the predominant empire throughout the 19th, 20th century and into the 21st century. It's not an easy thing to do. First of all, China has to be able to get the renminbi available in more countries through more clearing houses. That means Chinese banks with swap agreements in more countries and having more trade done in RMB. Now, with the recent AIIB bank that several Western countries are contributing to, that is a step in the right direction. But it's going to take many of these baby steps to be able to get anywhere near the US dollar as far as world dominance goes. China seeking yuan role in IMF reserve currency. What does this mean? Well, it's seen by many of the think tanks around the world that the Chinese are looking to get the renminbi into a basket of currencies for the IMF, and hopefully the yuan will become part of the IMF special drawing rights, or SDR assets. This would be another step in the direction of the renminbi challenging the US dollar for world supremacy. However, it takes time. It's not easy. And there are many objections by the West as China tries to gain more influence worldwide. The renminbi basically is strengthening slightly over the past week or so, but up until then, dollar strength had pushed the renminbi as far as exchange rate lower than it had been previously. At one point, it was, I believe, 6.0 in the exchange, and then it got all the way to 6.26, and now I believe it's just below 6.20. So it is gaining in strength, but it's not gaining in strength enough to really be any kind of threat on the exchange. But let's take a look here the nightmare scenario that I've been talking about for quite a while, that China's stock and housing bubbles both burst at the same time now that rates and inflation are low. That's because there wouldn't be any new shiny bubble for people to get excited about. Not that they need one when inflation is barely in positive territory. What does that mean? Well, Chinese, like their Western counterparts, don't have anywhere to store their money because what's happened is that they've pushed interest rates down so low that it's impossible for the Chinese to really find anywhere to put their money and get any kind of return. So they don't like banks. The stock market is in a bubble right now. Real estate has been in a bubble and is bursting before our very eyes. So Bitcoin is another area where Chinese are speculating basically with their earnings, okay? Goldman Sachs came out recently and said that 80% of Bitcoin trading is in the Chinese Yuan. This despite regulation by the Chi-Coms as to the use of Bitcoin and making it illegal to use for payments and trade in debt. Now, this hasn't stopped Chinese from pouring their yuan into Bitcoin. They're speculating. They're not saying that Bitcoin is something that they want to use or that they believe is a viable exchange for goods and services. They simply have nowhere else to store their money. Something big is in the works, and we know that just by reading the headlines. Okay, dead 125 scientists, 75 high-level bankers, and within 24 hours, 3 investigative journalists have deceased under suspicious circumstances. Is this connected to the world deflation and the world economic slowdown? Bubbles abound everywhere? Perhaps so. This article I'll leave the link to in the comments section, and you can take a look at the details surrounding the most recent deceased high-level financiers, scientists, and journalists. What do they have in common? Connect the dots. Does this have something to do with the Great Reset that so many people are commenting on? Could be, maybe not. Maybe a coincidence. But if you read the article and you consider the rate of these high-level bankers and people connected to working on research projects that could be countering the NWO or the old world order, like I like to comment on, because in fact it is the old world order and just repackaging itself. So a lot going on, and if you read this Zero Hedge article, you'll see that global trade grinds to a crawl. We're looking at the dry bulk rates around the world being at mid-1980s level. This is not good. Deflation and dollar strength, not good. This article in Zero Hedge is very short, but the comments are quite humorous, and I think that maybe you'll get a kick out of reading those. And basically, deflation continues. We don't know where this is all leading to, but China's bubbles have a great effect on all of that. We'll keep an eye on it. The Chinese Yuan, not even close to becoming the world reserve currency, at just around 5% of world use on the SWIFT system.